It has recently come to my attention that Clayface is going to be a part of the Batman 2. Now, whether he's the big pile of shit monster or he's just the regular guy who wears face putty, who knows? But either way, I'm excited to see it. And I remember like 2 years ago, I posted like a thing where I thought that Nicolas Cage would be the perfect Clayface, and I still believe that to this day. So here's a little test reel.
Motherfuckers! You're going to open this motherfucking door!
Anyways, now that you enjoyed that nonsense, I kind of want to talk about one of my favorite Clayface stories ever because it's just so good and I want you guys to know about it before the Batman 2 comes out. As we start the story, we find a young Basil Carlo stumbling upon his father's old horror mask. His father then enters his office to find his son looking at all the masks, and he asks his son if the masks are terrifying to him. To which the kid says that the masks feel like they're staring right back into his soul, and the father says that that's the trick, isn't it? Telling Basil that that's half the trick. The other part of the trick is the man under the mask. The man under the mask creates the monster. And once the actor is able to trick the audience into believing that this monster is somewhat real, that's when the true terror begins. And after telling his son the true secret to terror in film, he starts to turn around and use this industrial chemical to mold his face in a sense. Oh my god, that's fucking terrifying. After scaring the daylights out of his son, he starts to rub off the chemicals on his face and starts to break down a little bit, saying to his son that all of those monsters on the wall that he sees are a part of him in a sense. He put his all into each and every single monster on that wall, but the studio didn't believe in him. And once the studio saw his father's true monster within, the studio blacklisted him from Hollywood forever, as Basil's father tells his son to never let anyone see the true monster within, because deep down, nobody loves a monster. Cut to 20 years later, Basil Carlo was on the top of his career and everybody knows Basil Carlo. He's a household name. And what Basil Carlo wants more than ever is to land a villain role in a horror movie as he argues with his agent to make it happen. The next day, overlooking Hollywood with his girlfriend, Basil Carlo can't shake off the feeling about this audition. He needs to land this part. It means something to him. He begins to say how nervous he is about landing this role, and his girlfriend then asks what's so special about this role, with Basil saying that he relates this role to his dad. How his dad had anger and guilt and let it all run his life, and how this role is very similar to that. And to him, he has to prove something to his father, that you can be a monster and still be accepted. And what do you know? The audition rolls around and Basil lands the part after a phone call with his agent. And with all the good news, he's looking forward to calling his father to tell him that he'll be the villain in a horror movie. But while on the phone with his agent, he gets another call coming in while speeding on the highway. And with Basil Carlo picking up the phone while speeding, he would hear from a doctor on the other end that his father was found dead. And with him not paying attention to the road, he would crash into another car. Oh god, he's trying to say something. Basil, can you hear us?
Why are you looking at me like that?
We're just so happy to see you're alive, Basil. You almost didn't make it.
No, that look. Why are you giving me that look? Oh god, oh god. Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
Baz, listen to me. It's okay.
I said don't look at me. No one can see me like this. This isn't who I am. Please don't look.
And that's my cue. Basil, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Nobody's going to pay money to look at that face on the big screen ever again. Now, after that somewhat jarring scene, Basil Carlo would be checked out of the hospital and immediately go to his father's apartment to collect his things. And while Basil would shuffle around his father's old things in his apartment, he would find the very same chemical that his father would use to distort his face called Renew. Seeing this as his shot to become his old self again, he would mix the materials and start rubbing it on his face. The next day would roll around and Basil's agent would try to convince the director that Basil was no longer an actor. However, what his agent couldn't anticipate was Basil walking in completely healed of all injuries. After appearing to the set and shooting a couple of scenes, Basil would fire his manager, and while his girlfriend would look at him and be in total shock that he was completely healed, they would essentially break up because Basil didn't want to be reminded of his disfigured face. And after days and days of using this same chemical to repair his face, he would start running out of the material and wonder where his father was actually getting this. After Basil would figure out what company would create Renew, Batman and Commissioner Gordon would figure out that there's this same man that keeps coming to the company every night and stealing the same chemicals. So with Batman being Batman, he decides to take this new criminal down. On the next night, while Basil would run his regular routine, he would find more Renew than usual and get excited because he could finally finish the movie production. However, that wouldn't be the case, as Batman would drop down, telling him to step away from the boxes. But Basil would refuse, saying he won't give it up. That's his whole life at stake. So Batman would punch Basil in the face, and where his face used to be is a massive hole, leaving Batman in total shock. The next night, Basil Karlo would wake up in a hospital bed, handcuffed, and demanding for a mirror from the nurse. Basil then requests to the nurse that nobody sees his true face, but it's a little late for that, as the director of the movie hands him a newspaper with Basil's true face on the front page. As she tells Basil that Basil could have still been in the movie regardless of his disfigured face, and that she would have fought tooth and nail to the studio to keep him in because that part was his. And Basil Karlo blew it, as she basically says that he could have literally showed the world what he truly was. But now, she doesn't care if he walks out of here tonight. He's not going to be in the movie anymore. And right as his director leaves, Batman appears right beside his bed, telling Basil that he has a choice to make. Basil Karlo then starts to yell at Batman that he has no choice anymore. He's a monster, and society doesn't love a monster, no matter what choice he makes. However, Batman tells him that he's not a monster. He's just a man that is sad, alone, and lashing out at everyone because he feels trapped and alone. As Batman tells Basil Karlo that the chemicals he's been putting on his face every day have been destabilizing his neurons in his brain, causing Basil to not truly be himself anymore. As Batman tells Basil that if he testifies against this company that makes Renew, he could redeem himself, so he can either be the monster that society sees him as, or Basil can work with Harvey Dent at the district attorney's office and be something more. So the following day, Basil Karlo shows up to the district attorney's office. Only Basil Karlo doesn't decide to work with Harvey Dent, instead showing up to the district attorney's office with a gun, trying to find Renew, yelling at officers to show him where the chemical is. But while Basil runs for the chemicals, the police officers open fire on Basil, and in turn, Basil Karlo drowns in Renew, becoming a clay monster. And with the police officers thinking they just killed Basil Karlo, they don't even pay attention to what's behind them as Clayface starts to emerge. Wait, do you hear that? Cut to the film production of Second Skin. Basil's old agent is showing off their new actor replacing Basil, until they get a visitor. And that visitor is Batman, as he shouts to the whole cast and crew to run, as the ground starts to shake with a thump growing nearer and nearer as complete chaos breaks out. As Basil Karlo smashes through a building, telling Batman that he's made his choice. As Clayface roars at the cast and crew that they see him now, don't they? Don't they? And as Clayface grabs his replacement, threatening to kill him in the second act of the movie, Basil Karlo's ex-girlfriend tries to tell him that she doesn't know how this happened to him, but he's not like this inside. He's not a monster. But Basil refuses, as he instead wants to show everyone their true monster within, as he throws chemicals on his ex-girlfriend, shouting to the hilltops that he'll show everyone their true monster within. As we then cut to Basil Karlo as a kid again, sitting with his father watching an old horror movie.
Get back! Get back, you hideous beast!
Do you promise me, boy? Promise to never let them see.
Yeah, Dad. I promise.
And with that, I really hope you guys liked this video. Me personally, Clayface has always been my favorite villain ever since like Arkham City in that final boss fight. He's just always been like one of those kind of surreal villains that's just always been cool to me. I also just like a very deranged villain that can also shapeshift. It just opens so many possibilities for storytelling. But anyways, I hope you guys like this video, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and as always, I'll catch y'all on the flip side.